John Keim. He covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Hey, John, I put a question on social media, and you can think about it, but maybe something will spring to your mind immediately. And the question was, give me the highlight and the low light of the Ron Rivera era. And it was interesting to see all the responses. Got hundreds of responses. What do you think was the highlight, John, and the low point?
Oh, boy.
That's a tough one.
I mean, I think the highlight you have to go back to that first year and, I guess, clinching the division title, even if it was in a weird way in Philadelphia, for what they went through. And I haven't, without thinking about it, I'm sure there's something else.
Sure.
The low point, there were a half dozen this year. I think that first half against Chicago was an absolute low point. And, then you think, well, it can't get worse. And then there were games that happened later in the year. It's like, oh, my God, that might be worse.
They lost to Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, no, that was pretty bad, and gave up huge plays to Tommy DeVito. So that has to be on any low point list. But there were too many of those this year. Where I just remember in the Bears game, I think I probably talked to you guys about this after that game, and just thinking this might be the worst one I've seen, and I've seen a lot. And the reason I said that too is because it's not just that you were getting blown out. They've had other blowouts. The Dallas game a couple years ago, but that game, there's COVID, there's injuries. They were ravaged, right? You knew it was going to be a bust. This one, you had a team that hadn't won in a year, and you're getting blown out at home, coming off a game that, even though you lost, could have helped you build momentum. And they laid a massive egg, and it's the whole thing. You have everybody excited because that was a fun game, and Howell looked really good, and 27-3 at halftime.
John, the defense falling apart throughout the season has to be one of the major storylines.
Yeah.
They allowed 518 points this season. The Cardinals were second worst at 455. That's a minus 189 point differential. When did it start spiraling out of control for them? Or it's just been since week one, just a constant drip for the defense.
Yeah, I don't think it spiraled. I think it started off like that. It's funny because I was talking to someone the other day, and they're, during training camp, I asked somebody one time, are you concerned at all about the defense? And that was not not to thinking it was going to be horrible, but is it going to be as good as we think it is? And because it wasn't I didn't feel like they had this great training camp, but you never know what to make of it. And you don't know, it wasn't like they were terrible, but it's are they as good? Will they be as good as you think, et cetera, et cetera? And I was talking to someone here about that the other day. Their thing was they didn't play the run well in preseason. And it's if you don't do that in the preseason, it usually carries over. So that was the first bad sign, is that they were not better against the run. And so I think, you could tell early on, the last couple of years, they were able to turn it around. Last year, at the end of the year, they were a good defense. It wasn't just because they were playing sloppy quarterbacks. I mean, half the teams in this league, they built stats on those kind of guys, right? So it's not like they're alone in that. But it wasn't just that. They were playing well. And you could tell early on, it's not going to change. The big plays were never going to change. And in some ways, they got a little bit better with it, but not much. And so I just think it was early on, you could tell they're not playing well. And for a little bit, you kind of relied on or thought about they turned it around this year or that year. Will they do it again? And you got to a point they don't have the guys to turn it around, especially in the secondary. And I think that was a problem.
So I think I saw, obviously Ron's going to be let go today. I feel bad, but it's a necessary evil, right? It's going to happen. Everyone knows it. What are these reports? I think you've kind of put your flag in the ground saying you don't see it, but this idea from Florio and these guys that this organization has real interest in Bill Belichick at this point, I can't possibly see a scenario.
It's not. Yeah,
I can't even see that, not, John.
It's no. That's been because that rumor's been alive, courtesy of maybe one person for about a month and a half or so. it's been one of the easier things for me to hear no.
So you've actually talked to people within the organization without saying who, and they're saying there's no truth to that.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So
and
that's
so
good.
either somebody is massively lying, which the dealings have not led anyone in me to think that is the case, but he's not a fit. Like, no.
Right. So okay. So then it looks like Harbaugh is going to the Chargers. Everybody in the world wants Ben Johnson. Where are they right now? I'm just so down, John. Like, what are we going to get, the third or fourth choice here at head coach?
Oh, geez, I think it'll be better than that. I think that why do you think it'd be that low?
Well, Harbaugh's one of the top choices. He'll be gone.
He's a pessimist.
Ben Johnson, everybody wants Ben. Why would you come here?
EB is a beaten-down fan. Sell him on some hope, John. Sell him on some hope.
We have nothing.
Here's the thing, like, Harbaugh wouldn't be a good fit here either. So I don't view that as a loss at all. Fine. I think he's a really good coach, but I don't view that as like, oh, my God, they lost out on him because that's who I don't see that. I think Ben Johnson would be a good get. And because you're right, he's the prize. But right now, where are you going to go? Like, what, is Carolina better? Hell no. Like, that's a goofy-ass owner that,
I'd stay 100 miles away from Carolina, too. Yeah.
Yeah, now Atlanta will be interesting. There's a good talent base there. You just need a quarterback. They're not in position to get one of the top ones, but there is some good talent there. Is New England going to be better? I don't know. And then it depends on who do you get in the front office, because that's going to be a big thing.
That's got to hit.
That's the big deal.
That's got to hit.
But I will say, like, it absolutely does. And one thing I like in talking to people who either, whether it's, people in the league in various forms, like this is viewed upon as a really good job. And it starts with
only because of the cap room. And you got an owner that's not a douche.
At all. No, not true at all. It's not because of the cap room. It's because of the ownership. That's why. Like, when people go into jobs, like, they're not just like, I was talking to someone about this, about the Chargers, for example. Now, Chargers is an interesting one because you do have the quarterback. Do you trust the owner? And, now there are going to be the contingent there will be, who do they hire as a GM? Because that will be a big key, too, for a coach to know, like, who is building it and what can they do. But, I was talking to someone about the Chargers job. It's like, I
listened to that pod, John. I listened to it.
Okay. Rick Spielman. So, but if you don't have the owner, it's not going to matter. So, and we don't know, like, how good is Josh Harris going to be? We don't know yet because he just got here. But the approach is so dramatically different from what it used to be that it's like it has to be better.
Right.
Now the key is, can he hit on his first hires? That's what we don't know. Like, every owner makes mistakes. Do you come out of the park with a home run? That's hard. But I think the way the job is viewed is pretty good. So
because of the Harris group. Yeah. So we're giving the Harris group a benefit of the doubt. They even though he's won nothing, he's an owner who, whatever. I guess he's kind of turned around the Sixers.
Well, the key is not so much is will he put in the resources?
Okay,
that's a big key.
All right, so that's good.
Is he going to be true to his word? Is he, the patience level? So if you're Ben Johnson, do you look at this that way because, like, hey, this guy's going to be really patient. I have a chance to build it, similar to what, like, Kyle Shanahan got out in San Francisco, right? So, and I don't know.
But you're
that
starting
he's
at the
like
bottom, John. Like, I view us, and I'm very down right now, but we're basically an expansion team. We got no true players to build around. You're not building around a guard. Terry's, like, almost 30. Like, we got nothing.
Yeah, I bet you're really fun at parties.
He is not.
I mean,
he's just a beaten down fan.
I don't think I'm wrong.
No. Listen,
I'm not wrong.
Oh no, you're not wrong, and I'm just kidding. But, like, there is a lot of work to be done here, a lot, because you have to rebuild.
Because we have nothing.
Both lines. You have to rebuild both lines.
Yep.
You're going to get And, will you get the quarterback you want, even at number 2? Will you get that guy? And then how you build around him. So, yes, there's a lot of work to be done. 1,000% agree. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like I said, I mean, if that's why I say I think Atlanta could be a good spot, too, because they do have some good talent. They just don't haven't found a quarterback.
Where do they pick? What do they pick?
I think they're in the middle of the first. They're like 14 around the 13.
So they're not going to necessarily get an elite one.
No, they're not going to be.
Maybe they make a play for like a Kirk Cousins on the free agent market.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, who knows? So, and it'd be hard to see him leaving Minnesota, but you never know.
Yeah.
And so do you get a guy like that? And then again, everything is going to be contingent on who do you hire because chances are they get a president of football ops and then the GM. Do you have faith in those people or not? Are you aligned with them or not? And so, that's going to be the key. But, yes, there's a lot of work to be done here. I agree. Mm-hmm. But I don't think, I think when you're looking at jobs, you have to look. And, again, we don't know how Josh Harris is going to be. I don't want to sit here and tell people, he's going to – I just know that it's dramatically different. And the approach typically, is the right one, as far as belief in how you build something.
JK, Atlanta got the 8th pick.
Oh, they have the 8th? Okay, well, all right. So that's I think that's is not a bad job. And again, you have there's good offensive talent there, except for the quarterback. So, but if you think maybe you could get a guy that you like at 8 or trade or do something, then you have a shot to really. I mean, I think that could be a really good job. So yeah, I don't know what a Ben Johnson's going to do. There are other guys that would be intriguing, but I think it's going to be, is Bobby Slowick or Frank Smith, the OCs at Houston and Miami, are they ready? Are they because they've only been in those spots for a year. They have good reputations, but are they ready? And, do you want a guy like a Mike McDonald from Baltimore as a defensive coach? Is he the guy? I don't, so I think there's going to be, but I do think that for a lot of these jobs outside of Ben Johnson, it might just be beauty in the eye of the beholder. But I don't think it's a bad job at all. I do think you're right. There's a lot of work to be done. And if you can get, if you get that 6-year deal, knowing the work that needs to be done with a patient owner, you'll probably see the end of that contract.
Talking to John Keim, covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Let's just get your take officially on Sam Howell for the season and Eric Bieniemy. It kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think Howell showed that, I think he's going to be in this league for a little while. I was disappointed in the number of turnovers and how it unfolded in the second half. And some of that was, you're playing a lot better defenses, but that's also a way you measure yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the same is true overall as an offense, not just him. So I think there were times where you could tell trying to do too much. That was something that was just concern out of college, which was holding the ball and trying, and turnovers. And it came out in a big way this year. I think that he's a very smart player. I think he works really hard. And I don't think we've seen the last of him by any means. But is that as a really good backup, or is that a guy who maybe, sits for a couple years, gets another shot somewhere else, and becomes a, decent starting quarterback? But he did, what he had to do this year is make it a no-brainer for himself for next year, and he did not. And I think he would agree with that. You can't throw 21 picks and think otherwise. And then a lot of the sacks, they cut down on the sacks, but there were a lot early in the year where it was just clearly and some of those is just inexperience and needing to play more and get used to the speed and then the reads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But some of it was also, John, I think, is just being down 2-3 touchdowns. Everyone in the world know you're throwing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And you're throwing 80 to 20% of the time. It's just crazy.
Listen, they didn't do it.
They didn't do him any favors.
I think they, and that's what I was getting to too. I don't think they did him any favors. And I know part of their belief was, the more you have him throw, the better he gets. Well, you've got to put quarterbacks in good situations to succeed. Right. So, for example, and this is a small sample size, but when Dwayne Haskins was a rookie, when Bill Callahan took over, it was run, pass. And I know Kevin O'Connell would kind of fight Callahan on that a little bit to say, you're not helping him. He's like, well, we don't want to put all the pressure on him. It's like, but you're making it harder on him by putting him back there in a 3rd and long or whatever it is. So they started switching up the play calling, and he had some of those really good games. And I think, so play calling helps. I think having a little bit more unpredictability as far as run pass would have helped him too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't think that helped him at all. And I also look at the line, and I'd say, it was not built to pass protect as much as it was. And not just, the pass protection in general, but the line. And so, there are people here who knew the line might struggle this year, and then they drop back 40 to 45 times a game. That's difficult. So, and it's not like, I'm not going to say that's the only reason he struggled. Like, you had to play better. But that was, like, when you talk about from a game plan scheming standpoint, that was, that certainly didn't work because it didn't. They weren't a good offense, so you can't say it worked. But I do think, like, having a little bit more, and it's not just 50-50 run balance. Shout out Chris Russell. It's more about
how about 60-40? How about 70-30?
Yeah, exactly right. 60-40 would have been fine. 55-45, right. Something where it's like you're not beholden on a young quarterback in his first year behind a line that you knew might struggle to pass protect, to dropping back that much and asking them to do the things that maybe they're not quite ready to do.
And by the way, that stat did come out. We all saw where I don't know, but you saw the graph where our receivers apparently got open the least amount in football.
Yeah,
that was what is that?
Yeah, and then I know, like,
we threw the most. I mean, what's going on?
It was not. And some of that could be some static in the offense, I guess. And yesterday in the first couple of drives, like, wow, this offense might be fun to watch. And
That's what I was hoping for,
it's week 18. So there was some, are you scheming them open enough at times with the motion and causing defenses to be forcing them to communicate more, et cetera. But then it's like, again, sometimes a guy has to win a one-on-one, and that's on the player. So, like, you can't just put all on scheme. Guys have to win. And so, I like Jahan Dotson as a receiver, but was he winning enough at the line? And I think he still can be a good receiver in this league. But were you getting that there? Like, I think he's really good at the top of the routes. And I think sometimes, too, some of the wins might be on slower developing routes where there was just not enough of a chance to get the ball. And then too often you'd see, like, Howell getting ready to be sacked and 3 or 4 guys still in their routes, nobody really ready to receive it, to even be in position to throw with anticipation or something like that. So I think there was a whole mess of it that adds up to that.
Mm-hmm. John, there's not going to be a Misery Monday next Monday, so we're going to have a fun off season. We'll be talking to you throughout. Thanks for joining us, pal.